You never meant to return to the water, but the water never stopped waiting for you. Hello everyone. Welcome to You Dreamt This. I'm so glad you're here. Tonight, I'll be your guide into another strange, surreal story, crafted to help you unwind, drift off, or just escape the noise for a little while. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment letting me know what's the strangest dream you've ever had. You hear it every night now. It began as a ripple, no louder than the hush of the wind threading through the cracked bathroom window. But now, it's a whisper, shaped like words. They rise from the drain, from the cracks in the tiles, from behind the pipes. You tell yourself it's the old plumbing, but the voice has begun saying your name. The first time you truly noticed it was last Tuesday, after the rain. You stood barefoot on the cold tiles of the bathroom, brushing your teeth, bleary-eyed and half asleep. That's when you heard the sound again, gurgling, as if someone were choking on water far below. You paused, toothbrush still in your mouth, foam dripping. The sound deepened. Then you heard it speak. L. It wasn't clear. You froze. The name sounded distant, like it was being mouthed from the other side of a thick wall, or submerged in a tank. Your chest went cold, but you chalked it up to tiredness, or imagination. You didn't want to believe what you'd heard. But then it came again, louder. Carmelo, come back! Your toothbrush dropped. Foam dripped onto the sink and swirled down the drain. That night, you didn't sleep well. The apartment seemed heavier, wetter. The dreams came again, only now they were sharper. You're standing at the bottom of a pool, only you're not drowning. You're breathing somehow. The tiles around you stretch for miles, faded blue and pale with cracks. The sky above is distorted by the surface of the water, wobbling in silver. Your feet are cold. Your skin is slick. And then, something calls from the deep end. It doesn't swim. It doesn't move. It waits. A shadow, long and narrow like a person who's been thinned out and stretched, tilts its head at you. No face. No eyes. Just a slit of a mouth. It says your name, and water floods your lungs, but you still breathe. You wake up choking. But your mouth is dry. Bone dry. Every morning now, your bathroom sink is wet, damp around the drain, even though no one's used it yet. And the voice is getting clearer. You tried to ask your upstairs neighbor, the old woman who walks with a limp and leaves her radio on at all hours, if she's noticed anything strange. She blinked through her screen door at you, smoking slowly. Voice in the pipes? She said, nodding like you were just confirming something. Heard it since I moved in. Thought I was going mad. They say this building used to be a pool, you know. You stared at her. What? Mom, she wheezed. Indoor rec center. City tore it down in the 70s. Said too many accidents. Then they built this place right on top. Poured concrete over the old tiles. But water, honey, it remembers. She closed the door before you could ask more. You went back downstairs, heart thudding. Last night, the voice didn't wait until you were brushing your teeth. It started while you were in the kitchen. The faucet hissed, even though it was turned off. The puddle around the drain shimmered faintly, and in it, you saw the shape of a mouth. Just lips, pale and bloated, forming words without sound. Then the sound hit, like someone whispering right behind your ear, underwater. I miss you. You dropped the plate you were holding. It shattered, but you barely flinched. The air grew thick. The tile floor felt damp beneath your socks, though the rest of the kitchen was dry. The hum of the refrigerator twisted into a long, wet groan. A drip echoed from somewhere deep in the pipes, steady, like a ticking clock. That night, you didn't dream of the pool. You woke up in it, Your bed, your walls, your ceiling, all gone. You stood knee-deep in stagnant, freezing water. The walls were tiled, dripping. Mildew bloomed in strange patterns. Something pulsed beneath the surface, far off in the dark. Then the voice returned. All around you. Inside you. Carmelo, you never came back for me. You turned, heart racing, but no one was there. You tried to move, but the water clung to your legs like hands. You screamed, but the water swallowed it. You woke up on the floor, not in bed, soaked to the skin. Your bathroom door was open. The light was on. The mirror was fogged. But there were no showers that night. And written in the fog, just above the sink, were 4 words. You never let go. Now it's daytime, but the light feels dimmer. Outside your window, the sky is cloudless. But the world still smells like rain. You're thinking of going to the city records office. Maybe to find out more about the building, the pool, the accidents. The name, Carmelo, isn't exactly common, because the voice doesn't sound angry. It sounds hurt. And more than anything, it sounds like someone who remembers you. Someone who drowned. You didn't go to work the next day. You told yourself you just needed rest, but really, it was fear. Not the kind that comes all at once, loud and immediate, but the slow, sinking kind. The kind that coils itself around your spine while you're making coffee. The kind that whispers to you even while the sun is shining through your kitchen window. The kind that wants you to listen. You sat at your table for hours, sipping cold coffee and staring at the bathroom door. It stayed shut. Nothing moved. No dripping. No whispering. But you knew. Whatever it was, it didn't need the dark anymore. Around 3:14 p.m., you checked the apartment's floor plan again, something you hadn't looked at since moving in. You traced your finger along the wall beside the bathroom. There was a gap, a hollow space behind it that wasn't labeled. You pressed your ear to the tiles. Silence. Then a knock. Soft. Just once. From the other side. You reeled back, your hand covering your mouth. You didn't go to the city records office that day, but you did something else. You went to the hardware store. You bought gloves, a chisel, a flashlight, and, God help you, a small hammer, the kind used for breaking up tile. You didn't tell yourself why. You didn't have to. You already knew. That night, the voice didn't whisper from the pipes. It sang, a long, low hum, like a lullaby dragged slowly underwater. And beneath it, phrases, garbled and wet, bubbled through. Open the wall. Still waiting. Don't forget me. The words repeated, louder each time. So you smashed the wall open. It took longer than you thought. The first few strikes cracked the tile and splintered the plaster underneath. But it wasn't until nearly midnight that the last slab fell inward, revealing an old, circular iron grate. Beyond it, pitch blackness. Not just darkness, but the kind of black that feels deep, bottomless. The air that came through was cold, damp, and somehow metallic. You pulled the grate loose. It screamed on its hinges, and pointed the flashlight into the hole. What you saw was impossible. A corridor, tiled and slick with condensation, sloped downward beyond the wall, as if the bathroom was built on the edge of something much older. The water stains on the floor moved slightly, like the hallway was breathing. You stepped back, shaking. Then the voice came again, but not from the pipes this time. It came from inside the corridor. Carmelo, you're so close now. It was clearer than ever. A young voice. Familiar. Tender. You couldn't move. You couldn't look away. And before you even realized what you were doing, your foot crossed the threshold. The tiles were slippery beneath your shoes. You moved slowly, flashlight trembling in your hand. The corridor stretched downward at a slight angle, the walls pressing close. Your breathing echoed around you, bouncing off surfaces too narrow and too smooth. The air reeked of chlorine and mildew, like the bottom of a forgotten pool. Then your flashlight flickered and died. For a moment, there was only the dark, the kind that settles deep into your teeth. Then, a faint glow appeared ahead. Not bright, not natural. Blue, flickering like water reflecting on a ceiling. You crept forward until the corridor opened into a massive underground chamber. Octagonal, tiled, empty, but for a huge pool in the center. Still, black, motionless. And above the pool, hovering just a few inches over the water, was a face. Yours, or something like yours. Its eyes were open and milky. Its lips moved soundlessly, but you knew what it was saying. "You left me here." You staggered back. Your head spun. You looked into the pool and saw something deeper. Shapes, pale and distant, floating below. Faces, hands. A crowd, slowly rotating in the depths. All facing upward. All waiting. And then the voice filled the chamber. "You remember now, don't you?" Memories flood your mind, not like thoughts, but like sensations. Water, cold, pressure, screaming, someone grabbing your ankle, something pulling you down, the chlorine stinging your eyes, the lifeguard's whistle, and then silence. A long, stretching silence beneath the surface. You didn't drown, but someone else did, and you left them. You turned to run, but the corridor behind you was gone. Only tiles, just solid wall. Then the pool began to ripple. The water churned, slowly at first, then faster. Bubbles formed, rising in a spiral. From the center of the whirlpool, a shape began to emerge. Thin, tall, human, but not. Its limbs bit wrong. Its mouth hung open, leaking water with every breath. And its eyes, those empty, colorless eyes, locked on yours. It didn't speak now. It didn't have to. Because now, you remembered its name. And now, it had yours. You stumbled backward, nearly falling into the water. But just before your foot touched the surface, a hand grabbed your wrist. Not cold. Not monstrous. Warm. You turned, and standing just behind you was a boy. Your age. Or at least, he used to be. Hair soaked. Shirt torn. Eyes familiar. "I waited for you," he whispered. "All these years. You left me. But you don't have to leave again." He pointed to the water. "You can come back." You shook your head, heart racing. "I didn't know. I didn't remember. You always remembered," he said softly. "You just buried it." Behind you, the other thing, the hollow-eyed drowned version of you, began to climb from the pool, water pouring from its mouth. You turned, trapped between the two. One was your past. One was what you could become. And the voice now came from inside your head. "You don't leave this time." You froze. Two versions of you. One in front, one behind. The boy, the one who had grabbed your wrist, the one who looked like a memory pulled straight from a flooded yearbook, tightened his grip. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said, voice soft, childlike, almost shy. "I just wanted you to remember." Behind you, the drowned one, your mirror in rotten water, took another slow step onto the tile. Its feet made no sound. Only a slick squelch as puddles formed beneath it. It moved with certainty, like it had done this before. Because maybe it had. Maybe this was the real memory. "Why now?" he whispered. "Why after all this time?" The boy tilted his head. His eyes shimmered with something that might have been sadness or regret. "Because the water is rising again," he said, "and you're the one who started it." You thought of the hole in the wall, the hidden corridor, the cold air, the dreams. You thought of the sink whispering your name, and the puddles that never dried. You hadn't started anything. Had you? The pool groaned behind you. You turned your head, just enough to glimpse it. It wasn't water anymore. Not exactly. It moved like water, but its color had changed. Now it shimmered with threads of red and black and something greenish, like algae choking the surface. The faces beneath were still there, still spinning, still waiting, still watching. And your reflection, if you could call it that, wasn't just crawling forward now. It was smiling. And the smile was wrong, like it didn't belong on your face anymore. "You left me there," the boy said again, stepping closer. His grip loosened, and now he simply held your hand. "You left us all." "I was just a kid," you said, voice cracking. I didn't, but you knew better." His words were gentle, almost forgiving, and that hurt worse. Behind you, a wet footstep. Closer. You pulled your hand away from the boy and turned around fully to face the drowned version of yourself. It stared at you, head tilted, mouth dripping black liquid onto the tiles. Its jaw twitched. It opened its arms. Not like it was going to attack. Like it wanted to hold you. Like it missed you. Your body tensed, instinct screaming to run, but there was nowhere to run. Just the pool. Just the dark. Just this endless underground chamber that shouldn't exist. The boy's voice echoed again, but this time, older. "You buried me beneath the surface," he said. "Now the surface is breaking." You turned back to him, and he was different now. Older. Not a boy. A teenager, maybe a little older than you remembered. His face gaunt. His clothes waterlogged and torn. His skin pale, pruned like he'd been soaking in something for years. His eyes hollow, rimmed with blue veins. Still familiar. Still too much like you. "How did you die?" you asked, almost choking on the words. He didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the edge of the pool, kneeled down, ran a finger across the surface, and the water responded. It began to ripple outward, slowly at first, then violently. A humming grew in the chamber, low and bone deep, like it was vibrating through the walls. The faces beneath the pool shifted faster, spiraling, and rising. Then the boy turned back to you, and smiled. "You already know," he whispered. The wall behind you cracked. Not the tiled wall, but the memory. Suddenly you saw it, not in the dreamlike, faded way of a dream. Clear. A summer day. A pool. Laughter. Then screaming. A shape under the water. You holding him under, only for a second. Only a game. Only because he pulled you down first. But when you let go, he didn't come back up. And you ran. The chamber shuddered. Dust fell from the ceiling. You dropped to your knees, shaking. "I didn't mean to," you whispered. The boy walked slowly toward you. "I know." The drowned version of yourself was just a few feet away now. It knelt beside you. You looked up into its face. Your own face. Eyes full of water. It reached toward your chest. And for a moment, you didn't flinch. Because some part of you, deep, buried, hidden, wanted this. To be taken. To be forgiven. To sink. Then the boy touched your shoulder. And everything stopped. "I forgive you," he said. "But the others," he looked toward the pool. "They're still waiting." You followed his gaze. The water was no longer water. It had risen, spilled across the tiles, flowed toward your feet. And beneath the surface, the crowd of faces was no longer still. They were swimming toward you. All of them. One of them had no eyes. One had a face like shattered glass. One wore your old swim team shirt. One had no mouth at all. They didn't look angry. They looked hungry. The boy knelt beside you. "You can leave," he said. "Right now. Go back. Seal the wall." "What?" He touched your chest, just over your heart. "You'll have to carry it forever. And if I stay?" The boy looked down, then back into your eyes. "You become part of the water." The drowned you opened its mouth again. From inside, the voice came, "Time to decide." You looked at the water as it reached your knees. The cold sank into your bones, and the whisper returned. This time not from the boy, not from your reflection, but from the pool itself. A chorus of forgotten voices, calling your name. One last time. You don't remember standing, but now you are on your feet. Water has risen to your thighs. It clings like ice, but you don't shiver. You just breathe, slowly, heavily. The chamber feels smaller now. Not physically, no. The walls haven't moved, but the pressure has. The weight of everything is pressing in. The air thick with unspoken names, with memories too warped to put into words. Faces float in the pool around you, orbiting like planets pulled toward gravity. Your gravity. "I want to leave," you say. The boy watches you. Still, pale. Hair slicked against his forehead like he's been underwater forever. "You can," he says. But first, he reaches behind him and lifts something out of the dark. A mirror, but not glass. This one is water, held together in a perfect sheet. And when you look into it, you see it all. Not just the day he drowned. Every moment you turned away. Every time the water called, and you pretended not to hear. The sounds in the sink. The dreams. The voice that cried out from behind tile and drain. Every piece you buried. All of them watching you now. "You can't leave without it," he says, holding out the mirror of water. "Take it." You hesitate. The drowned you, your reflection in rot and regret, moves beside him. It nods. Not threatening. Not pleading. Just knowing. You reach out and press your hand against the surface. It's not wet. It's warm. Like breath. Like blood. And as your fingers pass through, the mirror bends and pulls and enters you. Not the way water soaks skin, but the way guilt lives beneath it. You gasp. Fall to your knees. Something changes inside. Not pain. Not quite. But wait. You feel the others now. Those faces in the deep. The ones who whispered. The ones who drowned. They're inside you. Memories. Names. Lives. And none of them yours. The chamber groans. Cracks run through the ceiling. Tiles fall in chunks, splashing into the water. "It's collapsing," you whisper. "No," the boy says. "You are?" The pool isn't just rising anymore. It's flooding. The water is reaching the top of the chamber. Soon it will hit the ceiling. Then, nothing. You run. Not because you think you'll escape, but because something drives you forward. Through where the corridor used to be. The wall cracks open before you, as if the building itself wants you to go. You don't look back. You can't. The voice behind you calls again, your name, layered with 1,000 others. But you climb through the opening, dragging yourself out, soaked, shaking, heart hammering like a warning bell. You burst into your apartment bathroom, collapse against the floor, coughing up water that was never in your lungs. The hole in the wall behind you shudders, then seals. Just like that. Tiles slide back into place. Perfect. Untouched. As if none of it ever happened. Except the room is wet. Your socks soak instantly. The faucet drips. The mirror fogs, though the shower hasn't run. And on the glass. You took them with you. Now days pass. Sometimes you still hear the voice, barely. It's quieter, weaker, but inside now. In your blood. You walk to work. You speak to neighbors. You stand in elevators and stare at your reflection, wondering which part of it is still really you. And sometimes, at night, you feel the water rising again. Not in your bathroom, not in your dreams, but in your chest. Like a tide that never went out. Like something waiting, still watching, still whispering. One night, weeks later, you're brushing your teeth again. Calm, tired. The faucet creaks. A single drip hits the sink. You lean in. And in the mirror behind you, not your face. His. The boy. Smiling. He mouths something. No sound. But you know exactly what he says. You always have. You'll be back.
Story number 2.
Some sounds aren't meant to be heard, especially the ones that remember you back. It began with a humming, not loud, not even noticeable at first, just a subtle undercurrent, like the flickering buzz of an old fluorescent light buried deep inside your walls. You'd only hear it when everything else was quiet, when your phone was off, when the refrigerator wasn't cycling, when you were lying alone in your room, staring into the ceiling fan's slow spiral at 3:07 a.m. The first time you noticed it, it was just that, a quiet hum. Faint, soft, beneath everything. Then, without warning, it began to change. You thought it might be tinnitus or some odd trick of your apartment's aging wiring. But this noise had tone, structure, a rhythm too precise for static. One night, the hum dipped low, almost like a cello string. The next night, it rose, a dissonant whine layered with a low pulse beneath it. And though you told yourself it was nothing, that it would go away, it didn't. The sound evolved each night. Then came the dreams. At first, they were just hazy impressions, images you couldn't quite remember. But the feelings they left were impossible to ignore. Grit under your fingernails, dry blood in your mouth, water rising up over your ankles in pitch blackness, faces half submerged in old wallpaper, watching you. You woke up sweating, nails digging into your palms, whispering things you couldn't remember the next morning. But the soundtrack kept playing. Each night, the tones became more layered. It was music now, or something close to it. Not anything you could hum back, but you knew the progression. Like a melody written just for your subconscious. Notes stitched between the folds of your fears. That's when you found the tape. It wasn't yours. You don't even own a cassette player. But one night, as you were sweeping under the couch, why were you even cleaning at that hour? You found it shoved between the floorboards, tucked just barely out of sight. The tape had no label, no case, just a translucent shell with black spools. Against your better judgment, you ordered a cheap cassette player online. When it arrived, you almost laughed at yourself. But that night, when the hum returned, you slipped the tape inside, pressed play, and everything changed. No music played. Instead, you heard yourself. Not your voice now. Not something recent. This was your voice as a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and it was laughing. Laughing like you used to when your cousin would chase you around your grandparents' living room. A high-pitched, joyful noise, echoing and looping endlessly. Then it cut. A man's voice came through next, muffled, as though it were speaking from the bottom of a well. His tone was emotionless, robotic, but the words were clear. You have already heard the beginning. You will now hear the end. The sounds in between were never yours to forget. Then silence. And in that silence, you heard it. Beneath the layers, behind the magnetic hiss of the old tape, the same soundtrack you've been hearing in your sleep began again. Only now, it was louder, sharper, less like a song and more like a message. A low, shifting distortion that scraped along the edges of your sanity. That night, your dream didn't fade with the morning. You were standing in a room with no ceiling, just endless black above. There was a door made of speakers, humming softly. The wallpaper was stitched together from old newspaper articles, each one mentioning your name and stories you don't remember being part of. A girl was standing in the corner. She was facing away from you. Her hair was wet, dripping onto the hardwood floor. When you called out to her, she didn't turn around. But the sound, your soundtrack, grew louder. The girl raised her hand and pointed at the wall behind you. You turned. A mirror. But the reflection wasn't your own. It was someone else. Their skin was pale and sagging, and where their eyes should have been, there were tiny cassette reels slowly turning. From their mouth, the same hum spilled out, deep, metallic, endless. You woke up screaming. The tape player was still running. Only now, the cassette was gone. You never took it out. The next day, you tore your apartment apart trying to find it. But the tape was simply gone. Not stolen. Not misplaced. Gone, like it never existed. But the music stayed. Now, it plays while you're awake, in the soft buzz of the hallway lights, in the way the wind moves past your bedroom door, in the static between phone calls, in the water pipes. People have started noticing. Your coworker asked if you were listening to something at your desk, even though you had no headphones in. Your neighbor knocked on your door and asked you to turn the music down, even though your speakers weren't on. The soundtrack isn't yours anymore. It never was. But it wants you to remember. And it's getting louder. You tried to go without sleep. That first night after the cassette vanished, you drank 2 cans of Monster, watched 3 hours of old reality shows on your laptop, and sat on the floor with the lights on, convinced if you could just stay awake, the sound wouldn't come back. But sometime around 4:21 a.m., you blinked, and it was already 5:47. You hadn't moved. The lights were off. Your laptop was closed. And there, in the middle of your carpet, was a small black speaker. It looked like it belonged in a 90s classroom. Boxy, dust-covered, a frayed wire running from its back into nothing. No power source. No cord to any device. Yet from it came a faint, rainy melody. The same rhythm, the same distorted tones that had haunted your dreams. You stood frozen for a long time. You didn't touch it. You didn't even want to breathe near it. Eventually, the sound faded on its own, like someone turning a dial down to 0. You left the apartment that morning without looking back. For the next 3 nights, you stayed with different friends. Made up reasons. Couches, floor cushions, spare beds, anything to avoid your place. And the dream stopped. The soundtrack didn't follow. Until it did. The 4th night, you slept in your friend Josh's garage, wrapped in a sleeping bag under a drum set he hadn't touched in years. It was quiet, cold. You felt safe, even if just for a moment. But then, around 3:03 a.m., the music returned. Not in your ears, not in the air, in your head. It came in pulses, tones that made your teeth ache, bass notes that vibrated your lungs, screeches that didn't come from any instrument you could name. You woke up with blood dripping from your left nostril. You tried to scream, but your throat was locked, your voice buried beneath the sound. You crawled out of the garage, gasping, choking down air as the noise began to recede slowly, like a receding tide made of static and wire. You didn't sleep again for another 2 days. When you finally returned home, the speaker was gone. But in its place, your apartment felt different. It was subtle at first. Your bookshelf slightly off-center, your couch angled a few inches more to the left, the paint near your light switch scratched, like someone, or something, had been inside, rearranging, watching. That night, you made the mistake of checking your voicemail. You had 5 new messages. You rarely got one. The first was just silence. The second was the hum. The third was the sound of your own breathing, but not recorded. Live. In sync. You held the phone to your ear and heard yourself breathing, even though the phone was on mute. The fourth was a child's voice. No words. Just humming your tune. And the fifth? The fifth said only this. There's a room between rooms. You've seen it in your dreams. Return, and the recording will be complete. The voice was yours, but older. Like it had aged 20 years in a single message. You dropped your phone. When you picked it back up, all 5 voicemails were gone. By the next morning, you started hearing them, others who'd heard the same thing. It began with a Reddit thread. Has anyone else heard music that doesn't exist? You thought it'd be a joke, another ARG or creepypasta. But no. The people posting there, they knew. They described the tape, the humming, the girl in the corner, the sound that invades dreams and then lives in the walls. One user even uploaded a clip of a strange, looping frequency. Thin, metallic stuttering, painful to listen to. But when you did, your hands began to shake, your teeth clenched, and for a moment, you swore the light in the room dim. Another user posted coordinates. An abandoned radio station outside Helena, Montana. Nobody replied after that, not even the mods. You tried to message the user privately, but the account was deleted. A day later, the entire thread vanished. That night, a new cassette appeared, right on your kitchen counter. This one was labeled in crooked red ink. Side B, do not play awake. You stared at it for hours, debating. In the end, you gave in, because the music doesn't let you sleep anyway. You dusted off the cassette player, slid the tape in, and pressed play. It started with footsteps. Soft, barefoot, walking across linoleum floors. Then came breathing. Then the sound of your apartment door unlocking. Then a voice, again, your own, whispering something you couldn't quite catch. You rewound the tape, pressed play again, but this time, it didn't start with footsteps. It started with a song, and as the low, vibrating hum returned, your vision dimmed. The ceiling above you cracked, not physically, but perceptually. You saw it bend, like gravity folding wrong. The walls distorted. The corners of the room deepened into shadow. Then, you were no longer in your apartment. You were in the in-between. It was a hallway that curved impossibly in all directions. Walls of dead radios stacked like bricks, each humming its own version of the melody. Cables crawled across the floor like veins. Every few steps, a voice would whisper in your ear. Can you hear it now? You turned a corner, and there she was again. The girl. Same wet hair. Same soaked dress. But this time, she was facing you. No eyes. Just speaker cones where her sockets should be. Her mouth opened, and the song screamed out, louder than anything you'd ever heard. It cracked the walls. It shattered your name. And then, silence. Pitch black. Nothing but a final message etched into the floor at your feet. Tide C requires blood. You woke up on the kitchen floor. Your ears were ringing. There was something metallic in your mouth. Blood, maybe, or the memory of it. The cassette player was still running, its spools empty, whirring in place. The tape had fed itself fully through, though you'd swear it was only a minute or two long when you hit play. You looked down. Your fingers were red. So was the countertop. So was the sink handle. Dull smears, like someone, maybe you, had gripped it hard. You checked your body for cuts, but found nothing. Not even a scratch. But something inside you was different. You couldn't name it, but you felt it. Like you'd left some part of yourself behind in that hall of whispering radios. Something vital. Something you might need later. And the hum? It hadn't stopped. It was louder now. Not only in the apartment, but outside, everywhere. As if the world had been tuned a few hertz off, and only now, after hearing side B, were your ears trained to hear it. Passing cars emitted the faint rhythmic drone. Streetlights flickered in sync with the underlying beat. You walked past a bakery on 8th and swore the whir of their mixing machines matched the warbling melody that used to only visit you in dreams. It was leaking, bleeding into reality. You were halfway through crossing the street when a man grabbed your arm. Tight grip, wild eyes. "You've heard it," he said. His breath reeked of iron and sweat. "You've played the sides." You tried to pull away, but he held you there, eyes boring into yours like he was staring through your skin. "You need to burn the tape," he hissed. You opened your mouth to reply, but he was already gone, darting between traffic, nearly getting hit as he vanished into the crowd. You told yourself he was just another lunatic. This city had hundreds. But later that night, when you looked at your hand where he grabbed you, you saw it, a smear of red and possibly fine, like oxidized dust. And beneath it, barely visible, something was burned into your skin. "Side B plays when you die." You ran to the mirror and scrubbed your arm raw. The mark didn't fade. Over the next few days, more things changed. Small, quiet intrusions. Your dreams became full sequences. Narratives you couldn't wake from. They all began the same way. A door, a hallway, a station filled with tangled reel-to-reels, each spinning a different version of the song. You always found yourself holding something. A pencil, a child's shoe, a lock of your own hair. You never knew why. Each dream ended with a sound so loud it cracked the air like glass. Then silence. Then a melody reversed. A few nights later, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Grainy and dark, like it had been taken with a disposable camera. You were in it, asleep, head tilted back on your pillow, mouth slightly open. The cassette player was beside you, open and empty. And standing in the corner of the room, her, the girl. This time, her dress wasn't soaked. It was burnt, charred at the bottom, like she'd been pulled from a fire. On the back of the photo, written in jagged pen strokes, "The song can't end until you finish recording." You dropped the photo. Stepped back. Behind you, the cassette player clicked. It had closed itself. You didn't press anything. The spools began turning. No tape inside. Just turning. Then a voice began to speak through the empty deck. "The final track is incomplete. Find the others. Bring them back." You started seeing signs everywhere. Not literal signs, patterns. Like the world was guiding you. Or baiting you. A sticker on a street lamp shaped like a reel-to-reel, scratched with the number 44.1. A thrift store with an entire shelf of blank cassette tapes, all sealed, except one. That one had your initials scrawled on the spine. A Subway ad for a recording studio you'd never heard of. "Wake the sound. Reclaim the silence." And finally, a phone number written in lipstick on the bathroom mirror of a dive bar downtown. "For side C, call before the music fades." You waited until midnight. Then you called. The line was dead for 5 seconds. Then a jolt of static. Then your own voice again. Older, slower, cracked and layered like it had been copied too many times. "Side C is a place. You've already been. You left something behind. You didn't respond. You'll need blood to get back in. Click, you dropped the phone and stared into the mirror. And for just 1 second, you weren't looking at yourself. You were looking at a version of you. Gaunt, eyes sunken, mouth wide open with tape spilling out of it like a black tongue. Then it blinked. And it was you again. Later that night, you followed a street sign that had been half torn off. Behind it was an alley. At the end of the alley, an old music shop. Windows covered in dust. Closed, sign flipped backward. But the door was open. Inside, no lights. Just instruments strung up like corpses on walls. Old drum kits rusted with time. Amplifiers still humming faintly with no power. And in the center of the room, a table with one thing on it, a real recorder, and a note. Record what you see. You reached for it, then stopped. The walls around you pulsed. The soundtrack was coming again. But this time, it wasn't in your ears. It was behind your eyes. And as the walls of the music shop began to melt, and the instruments turned toward you, their chords twitching like limbs, you realized this was side C, and it had just started recording. The moment the recorder began spinning, the world stopped making sense. The walls of the music shop thinned to static, rippling like heat waves. Sound wasn't sound anymore. It was color, movement, gravity itself bending with every vibration. Your body felt hollowed out, as if the noise had scooped something from inside you and replaced it with resonance. You stepped toward the real machine, your hands trembling. Record what you see. The tape rolled. You didn't know how, but you saw sound. Shapes etched from memory, flickering like dying film stopped. A hallway from your childhood, lit by a single flickering bulb. Your old bedroom. The closet door slightly ajar, even though you swore you closed it every night. The radio you didn't remember owning. You reached out, and your fingers passed through the vision. It rippled, shifted. Suddenly, you weren't standing in the shop anymore. You were in the hallway. That hallway. It went on forever now, walls narrowing like a throat. The wallpaper peeled in perfect curls, revealing thousands of magnetic tapes beneath. Some of them spun. Some of them leaked. And as you walked, you saw yourself, dozens of versions, frozen in fragments. Sleeping, screaming, smiling too wide, and all of them humming the same damn melody. You tried to turn around, but there was no way back. The hallway ended in a door. On it, etched in cracked plastic, Side D, live broadcast. You pushed it open. Inside, a studio, but not a modern one. The equipment looked ancient, knobs, spools, real decks, oscilloscopes blinking with green light. In the corner, a massive speaker hummed quietly, and seated at the soundboard was you. Older, scarred. You didn't look up at first, just adjusted the gain knob slowly, delicately, like tuning the universe itself. Then you turned and smiled. Good, you said, your own voice rough and slow. You made it. We're almost done. You couldn't speak. You didn't have to. The older version of you. This broadcaster gestured to the chair beside him. You sat, and for a while, the two of you just listened. The music was softer now, quieter, still haunting, but almost peaceful. Almost. He reached under the desk and lifted a small object onto the console. The original tape. The one you'd found beneath the floorboards. But now, it had a final label burned into the plastic. Track Omega, the end you forgot to forget. He handed it to you. You're not supposed to remember it, he said. But you recorded it. Long ago. Before the world started skipping. You blinked. What is it? He leaned close. It's the moment you crossed over. The exact frequency your soul hit when it slipped through the cracks. The soundtrack is you. What you became. What you left behind. You looked down at the tape. The reels began spinning on their own. The machine came to life. And suddenly you remembered. You weren't just listening all this time. You were transmitting. The studio trembled. Through the speakers came a reverse echo of your voice, looping. They're hearing it now. They're hearing it now. The walls of the station flickered. The panels peeled away to reveal darkness behind them. Not black paint. Not shadow. Absence. A void. And through it poured thousands of voices. Children, static, old women whispering in tongues, your own breath catching in every cycle. All of it overlapping. All of it you. The broadcaster reached out, touched your shoulder. Once the last track plays, he whispered, you'll go silent. For real this time. No more echoes. No more bleeding into dreams. No more being half heard in broken radios and phone static. Your hands moved without your control. Press record. The final track began. It was nothing like the others. It was still. It was quiet. It was beautiful. A slow unraveling of every false memory, every nightmare, every lost moment you never knew you lived. A lullaby built from the scraps of forgotten lives. And as it played, you felt the world begin to fall away. Your name, your apartment, your voice, even your fear. Gone. Just vibration now. And the last thing you saw was the girl. Not in a corner this time. She stood beside the speaker, dry, clean, her eyes whole. She smiled and mouthed one word. Chew. When the tape ended, the world did not resume. There was no return, no waking, because the story wasn't about escaping. It was about becoming. You are the soundtrack now. A pattern, a frequency, a haunting. Every time someone hears a voice on a tape that doesn't exist. Every time a dream ends with a melody no one can name. Every time a child hums a song they couldn't have learned. That's you. Still playing. Still recording. Still bleeding through. Forever.